Every club.
Every day.
The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello, and welcome to the Daily Arsenal Podcast, brought to you as part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. It's Wednesday, and that means Wildcard Wednesday, but there's only one thing we really want to focus on today. Well, there's two things, but there's one thing we really want to focus on, and one thing we kind of have to. We're going to be talking later about the Champions League, about the results from last week, about our win against Dinamo Zagreb, and a few other results, our upcoming fixture against Girona as well. But we're going to start, as we said yesterday, by talking about refereeing. Now, before we start, I want to caveat this episode by making something crystal clear. Referees are humans, and any threats against them are absurd and frankly disgusting. They make mistakes, and that is the nature of football. But with such a heavy spotlight on them, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to criticise them as we criticise players. It's part of the game we love. But in no way at all do we condone threats of or any violence towards those officiating the game we all love, because the stuff that's come out against Michael Oliver since the Arsenal game has been horrific. It's been really unpleasant, and unfortunately it's becoming a bit of a feature of the game. But we are going to talk about refereeing because, as I say, it's part of the game, and we need to talk about it because it's a big part. A lot of this first section is kind of inspired by an article in The Athletic, actually. It's by Charlie Eccleshare. It's called, "Is There a Conspiracy Against Arsenal? Probably not, but the feeling is real." So, first of all, what I want to start with is the quality of on-field refereeing at the moment, where we feel that is. Charlie in his piece mentions that since the introduction of VAR in 2019, referees have become central characters, largely to the game's detriment. Jamie, in terms of refereeing standards that we see in games, how do you feel it's going at the moment?
Do you want me to talk about Arsenal specifically, or are we generalising here?
Arsenal specifically, you can generalise however you feel you want to talk about refereeing.
To be honest with you, right, speaking about Arsenal specifically, I mentioned it on yesterday's podcast, it's consistency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's all we ever ask for. We that's all we ever want. We want consistency, but unfortunately, we've got VAR for a reason. You know, you would think the referee that's, on the pitch would communicate with VAR and, and you would come to a solid agreement. Now, look, what happened the other day, what happened on that Saturday against Wolves with Miles Lewis-Skelly was just absurd, beyond absurd. And again, the fact the footage is not going to be released to the public, it's not even been, I don't know if it's going to ever get released to the media, but that kind of, the thing is, I think the reason why they've not published it to the media is simply because there must be something behind it. There's got to be something behind it where maybe they've acknowledged a mistake and maybe they've not come out with it yet. I don't want to just conspiracize here, but I am. But it's just, with Arsenal, we have been hard done by with refereeing decisions. And look, and it's not that Arsenal have been subjected to it, but look, other teams have been subjected to it. We're not just... It's not an easy subject to talk about when it comes to refereeing, but the thing is, we ask for consistency, and then you have VAR for a reason. Let's use it properly. There's a reason why a decision might take a little bit longer, but if it's done correctly, it is done correctly.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And kind of following up with that, Josh, I'd love to get your opinion on this section of the article. So it's a little bit of a chunk, but I'd love to get your opinion and your reaction to this. So Charlie writes, Howard Webb, on his Match Officials Mic'd Up programme on Sky Sports, said in 2023 that Michael Oliver did not want to send off Kovacic against Arsenal. You remember when he should have been sent off for that straight red?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to have a negative impact on the game by overreacting. Now, comments like that are undermined the next time Oliver sends someone off for a relatively minor offence, especially since Webb also said that Kovacic was very fortunate not to be sent off. On Saturday in the Arsenal game, Gomez avoided a straight red for what looked like a worse tackle than the one that got Lewis-Skelly sent off. Apparently, there's always a justification. What do you make of that in the sense of not wanting to overreact, but referees having to come out and say these things, which then ultimately undermines what he did on Saturday.
I think it's stupid. Honestly, I think that statement is really stupid. There's no overreaction. It's just what's the rules of the game, and you follow the rules of the game. It's that simple. You know, if you need help with the rules of the game because you made a mistake, that's what VAR is there for. You know, and again, we're all human. We all make mistakes. You know, if I was to get in trouble or get death threats for every mistake I've made in a job, I'd probably be dead by now. You know, so yeah, we don't condone those things, but. No, I think that's just stupid. You're there to ref the game fair. You know, whatever you think it is there, and if you're not doing it fair, or you think you've made a decision, we need to understand why you've made that decision. You know, like with VAR, it's been around for 6 years now, right?
6 years, according to this.
6 years now, okay. And since it's first been implemented and till now, it's not gotten any better. You know, I mean, was it 2 seasons ago when they forgot to draw the lines? All right, they put their hand up for that one, but. How could you be in the studio and you forgot to do something? Like you're in the VAR room, you're literally waiting to make, for the decision to come so you can look at it and do it properly. So you forgot to do that. And then the offside one, I think was with Liverpool last season and Tottenham.
Oh God, yeah.
I think that was probably the worst mistake ever. That was that one by far. It's every week. I don't remember a week here where we didn't have a referee decision that was not questionable with VAR. I don't know if you saw the Rangers one as well with the red card. I don't know if anyone got a chance to see it.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
I did partly, yeah.
Dundee and I think it was Dundee United and
it was
Rangers.
Dundee United Rangers.
Apparently it was a straight red. I think it wasn't really a slap. It was that it wasn't really a slap. I think the guy kind of fell and lost his balance, and but it was a straight red. And the manager, he came on and just said, "Look, I don't understand how that's a red." It's VAR's not the problem; it's the people running VAR.
Yeah,
and they keep making excuses on why they keep getting things wrong.
Like you say, it's a job that they're paid to do. Like if I turned up, I work in a bar. If I turned up for work and just started pouring beer all over the floor, I'd get sacked. Or if I started just throwing cocktails at people, I'd get sacked for not doing my job properly. In the VAR room, and it is specifically the VAR room because people make mistakes, and we've said it so many times. VAR's there to correct these mistakes. That's what it's there for. But if they're not doing that, they're not doing their job properly. Craig, something that he mentions as well in this article is that obviously, as we've mentioned, since VAR, it's constant. There's a new story every week about a decision that goes wrong. And he argues that if we got rid of VAR and heard less from referees about their decisions, it would be better. Do you think it's better to hear from referees about their decisions and have to explain their decisions? Or would you rather just not hear their descriptions and then just sort of have an equilibrium?
I think we'd better hear their decisions so they can get a better understanding of what they saw in the game. Because they obviously, I just said that they're not they're human. They make human error. Everyone's human. All of us are human. We all make errors sometimes. So you would love to think that you get opportunity to explain why they made that decision, and you can either say yes or you agree to it yes or you agree to it no. But one thing I have to say quickly before I was running on, but like in the Premier League, Premier League's the only league that's problem with VAR. Other leagues, you don't hear no issue with VAR. Italian league, French league, only the Premier League got issue with VAR. I don't know if you guys have noticed that or
no. Yeah, it's like the Champions League, isn't it?
You make.
Champions League, there's no problems.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Even Euros or even the Euros last year went well. The VAR, they got everything correct. One player did a bad challenge in the game and they got a red card. They sent the referee upstairs to check the video, red card. So
I think there was one mistake they acknowledged, which was in the Germany-Spain game, wasn't it? I think I can't remember exactly what the decision was, but that was literally it. And that was 3 games of football being played every day. Like it was an insane amount of football being played. Now, Michael Oliver has had a lot of stick from Arsenal fans, and some of it has been very violent, which, as we've said already, we don't condone. But he has got a track record with Arsenal. So I'll read you a little bit from this article. Arsenal's history with the referee who sent off Lewis Skelly is a factor. On the same ground 3 years ago, Oliver sent off Gabriel Martinelli for 2 yellow card offences in the same passage of play. I still think that was bonkers. I can't believe he gave him 2 yellows in the same passage of play. It was also Oliver who dismissed Leandro Trossard for a second yellow against Man City in September for kicking the ball away, having opted not to send Kovacic off when the two sides met last season for one tackle that could have been a straight red and another that looked like a nailed-on second yellow. Jamie, I mean, we don't want to add fire to this and make things worse for Michael, but it doesn't look great, does it?
No, it really doesn't. And the thing is, right, as you've just mentioned, you've not mentioned, like, you haven't mentioned that he's done it in another game where it's not Arsenal. It's the fact that it is Arsenal. And the thing is, again, referees are human. But my thing is, though, is where does that line come with being human and then having an agenda? Because some Arsenal, some fans, football fans, have even questioned referees, saying, "Look, I've seen so and so, support a Premier League team, and obviously, therefore, they might want their Premier League team to do better." But again, we don't want to go too deep into it. But again, for me, the line is kind of, being human and then also having that agenda towards maybe a certain team. It's not great, and it does actually kind of concern me that the next time that Oliver may referee an Arsenal game, it might just concern me to see how that game kind of ends up as well.
Yeah, I mean, he could, do something in favour of us, which obviously for us as Arsenal fans would be great, but it would not be a fair game.
No.
Or he'd feel the pressure to maintain a consistency on his sort of like stance against Arsenal in that sense.
Another concern I do have is we've got Man City this weekend. We've still got a couple of big teams still left to play. What's the likelihood that he referees a big Arsenal game or another Arsenal game, and scrutiny then comes under from that game?
The pressure on him will be massive.
Especially if it's, and I hate to say it, especially if it's at the Emirates as well.
Yeah, he'll get a lot of stick there. I mean, the article ultimately argues that it's not an agenda, it's incompetence. But I almost think that's worse. British refereeing should be better. English refereeing should be better. It's the best league in the world.
As I've said before, you look at maybe the previous World Cups and the previous Euros we've had. We've not had an English referee for God knows how long. I mean, the last time I can probably remember an English referee would probably be as far as maybe, I don't know.
Oliver's done it recently.
But I was thinking 2010.
Didn't you define one?
Yeah. Oliver's done a few recently, yeah. So obviously that was quite heavy in terms of looking at refereeing in the UK and sort of the problems that we have around it. I wanted to switch it slightly. What are, in all of your opinions, the biggest refereeing mistakes that have ever been made? Because I've got a little list of them here, and some of them are hilarious. I mean, Josh mentioned earlier the Liverpool Spurs offside, which was shocking. Do any others jump to any of your minds? Any of the refereeing decisions?
Oh, yeah.
There's one already.
A lot. I've got
one.
All right, go on. Hit us with one, Josh.
You've got a few. There's one. There's one for the Kieran Gibbs one where he's.
That was my one.
And I think it was it in the World Cup where the guy he booked the player 3 times.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was. He booked them 3 times, and then it's just like he didn't realize.
I feel like it was a Dutch player, possibly.
Yeah.
Dutch player. He managed to book him 3 times. Remarkable. And honest, the Kieran Gibbs Oxlade-Chamberlain confusion. Like, I will never forget that. It was one of the most bizarre things I've ever watched, and the shock on their face as well was beautiful. What about you, Craig? Have you got any others that jump to mind?
After the Rio Ferdinand one on Lundberg, I was 4 seasons unbeaten, 50 game at Old Trafford, when Lundberg was through on goal. Ferdinand just knocked him out of the way. No red card, no nothing, just straight on.
I remember that.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah. At Old Trafford, wasn't it?
At Old Trafford, yeah.
And even the Van Nistelrooy one was actually cool when he stamped on his knee. I don't know if you saw that one. There's a lot in that game. There's a lot of red cards. Gary Neville should have been sent off for what he did to Reyes as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah.
God, that was a
Yeah.
rough game, isn't it?
Yeah.
What about you, Jamie? Have you got any others?
Do you know what? For me, it was the Kieran Gibbs one.
Yeah.
Shocking, absolutely shocking. And I remember, I think the next time Arsenal were on TV, they done a promo around. I think it might have been another Arsenal Chelsea game, and they done a promo around like the whole Kieran Gibbs and Oxlade-Chamberlain. This is
Wasn't it
so
like,
funny.
this is Kieran, this is Alex? A couple of others jumped to mind for me. The Hand of God, obviously.
Oh yeah,
Arguably one of the most insane ones. The Lampard ghost goal
oh
in the South Africa World Cup.
yeah.
And also, now I mainly know because one of my old managers is Irish, and because I'm an Arsenal fan, he hated me for this. Henri's handball against Ireland to knock Ireland out of World Cup qualifying. But yeah, those are our big ones. If you can think of any others, add them in the comments, please. We'd love to have a look at them. That's it on refereeing, because that was quite a heavy and intense little chat that we had there. A little bit of levity towards the end. We're going to have a little break. We're going to hear a message from our partners at Zencastr. And when we come back, we're going to talk about last week's European results. We're going to talk about ours and a couple of other choice ones as well. I wonder if you can guess what they're going to be. We'll be back just after this break. Here at Global Sports Podcast Network, we spend a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. And welcome back to the Daily Arsenal podcast. We're talking now about the Champions League, and there is only, Josh, one place to start. The Estadio do Sport Lisboa and Benfica, where Benfica and Barcelona played out an absolute classic for the ages. Benfica 4, Barcelona 5. Did you manage to catch much of this game?
Yeah, I watched a bit of the game. I think essentially, I think he forgot what sport he was playing. You know, more like a WWE. It's like JVR, like Clothesline from Hell or something. You know, like, I don't know what he was trying to do.
It was very WWE-esque, wasn't it?
Did he take his own player as well?
So he rushed out of goal to try and close the player down, completely missed it, and wiped Aruo out. Just completely wiped Aruo out, like nowhere near him at all. And then Aruo as well was involved in one of the weirdest own goals I have. No, was it him or did it come off Rafinha's head? I can't remember.
Came off Rafinha's head, sorry.
Came off Rafinha's head. Barca scoring one of the strangest.
I mean, even the commentary team, like the camera didn't even pan to like the goalkeeper kicking it out. Like the next minute, they were like, "Oh, it's in the net." That's one of the most bizarre goals Rafinha will ever score in his career. I mean, I watched the whole game, and I mean, wow. I mean, it was. I mean, me and my girlfriend, we kind of said it. It was just a comedy of errors, really, wasn't it?
Brilliant game to watch.
It was,
like, from a neutral perspective.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the best games I've watched in a long time. But my word, it was chaotic.
It was.
Craig, obviously. We do obviously have to talk about Arsenal as well. 3-0 victors at home over Dinamo Zagreb. Goals for Declan Rice, Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard. Obviously, it was last week. It was a little while ago. But what did you make of the performance that we put in against the Croatian side?
Should have scored more goals.
Very blunt.
Blunt and to the point. I mean, you've got a very good point. Like, we dominated the game, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Honestly, we did. In the first half, after we scored the first goal, we didn't go for the second and third and fourth. We could have killed it off at half time. Then you could have rested some players as well. But the Moors was getting, I think it was 1 up to the 70th minute?
66th minute, Havertz got his goal,
So it was very. And they haven't played a game for almost 2 months or a month or so. They haven't played a game for weeks. So we should have peppered them. We didn't pepper them at all. So.
No, it's kind of the Arsenal tale, isn't it, Craig? 17 shots, 4 on target. It's just same old, isn't it?
Yeah. Same old Arsenal.
I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I was at the game. I was at the game last
You
week.
were, weren't you, Jamie?
And-
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean, I kind of put a score prediction down of like 4-0. And I think my mate, he said it would be like 3-1. We thought we were going to be in for goals, but to be honest with you,
Well,
Havertz had his chances, just could not take them again. And you know, I just sat there and I was like, you've JD's
Jamie's got it
JD's in
ready.
stitches right now because he's loving this. But look, seriously, he had chances. He could have scored more than the one. The chances were there. Sterling could have had a few. But to be honest with you, I'm going to speak about this. The one thing I did not like from the game. Now, one thing I do appreciate, right, is when a team like Zagreb, they come to London, they bring an atmosphere, they bring a noise with them.
Oh, it was incredible, wasn't it?
And I said this in my vlog. I said, look, credit due where it's due. Zagreb came in full voice. I was sitting above them, and they were in full voice, regardless. The one thing I didn't appreciate was whenever Arsenal took a corner, especially in the first half, where the Zagreb fans were sitting, a lot of plastic cups were thrown in their direction. Just in general, their fans, I weren't really too pleased with their fans because there was a lot of armed police around. They did cause quite a bit of trouble. They even ripped out some of the seats as well.
Oh,
Now, I
wow.
don't know again
Wow.
if, yeah, I don't know if like they're going to get investigated for it, but the thing is, and even there was a point where they started even throwing cups at us in the upper tier, and
Wow.
the thing is, like, at the end of the day, look, credit due where it's due. I like away teams that come and bring an atmosphere, but to start ripping out seats and to start throwing plastic cups at the fans, at the home fans and at the players was just really out of order. I mean, there was a point where police were running up the aisles and having to like take fans out of the stadium. It was, it may, on the pitch it may not have been as like glamorous, but in the stands it was quite chaotic.
It sounds almost quite uncomfortable.
I mean, it wasn't great having to see fans get dragged out and, to see the armed police come out. Because the thing is, I kind of said it to my mate, but, if say if this was at their ground in Croatia and we started kicking off like that, you wouldn't hear the end of it,
No.
and that is the sad thing, the end of the day, you go to a football game, you want to enjoy that football game. You don't want it to really be overshadowed by what's going on in the crowd. I mean, luckily, despite the 3-0 win and Arsenal winning, it's a good thing that what the Zagreb fans didn't do overshadowed the game. The one thing I'm disappointed with is the fact that UEFA have not kind of, seen what had happened or maybe even dealt with what's happened, unfortunately.
Well, they do have a bit of a reputation to the Zagreb fans, and I'm glad you made it out in one piece, Jamie. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Some of
Like
the
Football
other,
Factory.
yeah, there were some other big results over the 2 days as well. Atalanta beating Sturm Graz 5-0. Monaco beating Villa 1-0 as well. Borussia Dortmund losing to Bologna. That was a big one there.
That's a shock.
Celtic confirming their place in the knockout stages by beating Young Boys 1-0.
Yes.
Feyenoord beating Bayern Munich 3-0. Like, incredible result for
Shocking.
Feyenoord, who I think had 20% possession in that game. But let's be honest, boys. We're Arsenal fans. There's only one game that we took. Well, we took joy out of Arsenal winning. But there's another game we took real joy out of. Mr. Duncan at the Parc des Princes. Paris Saint-Germain 4, Manchester City 2. Now, from what I can understand, I didn't watch the game. You could have just watched the second half because there were 6 goals in it. I saw the goals coming through for City. They scored the first 2, and I thought, oh, right, it's just going to be a cakewalk. Have you seen the highlights of it by any chance, this game?
Yeah, you touched on the last podcast. You said that City, they're back on form. They're still not right for me. They're still got a bit of... They're still finding their feet, but there's a lot of work there. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's Rodri. I don't know, but Yeah, they really played a shocker, man. Honestly, I don't know what they're doing.
I mean, to ship 4 goals, let's have a look. So they scored. Paris Saint-Germain scored their first one in 56 minutes. They scored in the 56th, the 60th, the 78th, and the 93rd. Like, it's a complete capitulation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Mm.
It's. I mean, you don't do that at that level on the Champions League level. I don't. I know they're on a bad run of a couple games, but I just don't get why they're just so poor. Like this is not the City that we saw last season. Nowhere near.
No.
Defensively, like they're really bad.
They're really poor.
I think they're aging team now. They're aging. All their players are getting older now, very older now. Obviously, there's the shipped off Carl Walker to AC Milan, but a lot of their players
Yeah.
in their mid 30s or 30 plus, so they have to kind of weed them out eventually and get younger players,
Kind
hungrier
of.
players.
It does kind of explain also why they've now started to like look at like Marmouche, um,
Mm.
the guy that they brought from Lons as well.
The defender, is that?
Yeah,
Oh, I cannot remember his name to save my
I can't
life.
pronounce his name, but
I'm gonna do something.
I can see now City must be sitting there thinking, right, we need to start looking to the future a little bit. Um, you know, I think one of you touched on it in the last podcast, McAtee as well. He's starting to
Mm.
slowly find his game a little bit, but I dread to imagine what they're going to be like next season.
Yeah,
I
Kushinov,
really dread to imagine what they're going to be like next
Yeah.
season.
yeah. And the last thing I want to mention about that game, and we're going to ask you, Craig, because you're quite knowledgeable about football in general. Bradley Barcola for Paris Saint-Germain. My God, that guy looks good.
He could be Mbappe's replacement in PSG because they what they're doing in PSG now. They're trying to bring in more of home ground French players into their team.
Yeah,
So they're trying to do this. They're not trying to buy the superstars that they used to do in the past, like the Neymars or the Messis of this world. They're trying to build it from French, they go to different French rival clubs and buy their up and coming talent. But this kid is very talented. We were linked to him a couple of weeks ago when they were going to get rid of they were going to get rid of him. I don't know if they're going to get rid of him now, but we were linked to him a couple of weeks ago that we were going to go for him.
Do
And
you
I'm
know,
thinking he looks dangerous, like on that left wing.
do you know what? I did a solo podcast a couple of weeks ago about potential forward options. I would kill for this kid. He
No, he's
looks
good.
fantastic.
He's really good.
22 years old, 15 goals for Paris Saint-Germain so far in a season and a half. Like he's the proper deal. He is very much the proper deal. And like you say, he's being compared to sort of like Mbappe. He's also been compared to Ronaldo and Aubameyang, actually, sort of like having that a direct running style. Right.
If you compare Dembele, the winger, and him, I think if Dembele was more disciplined, he could have been up. He could have been the level of Dembele could have been the level of what he should be doing right now, but he hasn't really shown enough in his career. To be fair,
Dembele's a weird story in football, isn't he, Josh? He's a weird player.
yeah. He got so much talent there. He just, I don't know what's wrong with him. I don't know if he can't get his act together. Do you know what I mean? The talent's there, but the discipline and everything just not there. He's just the consistency as well. There's days where I've seen this guy play amazingly well, and then there's days where he's like a shell of himself. I don't get it.
He has the potential to be godlike, and he can turn it on.
Yeah.
But then he just disappears for half a season. A very odd player. Anyway, that's enough looking back. We're going to take a very short break, and then we're going to have a short little section at the end of today's podcast where we discuss our final opponents in the Champions League, Girona. We'll be back just after this.
This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day.
And welcome back to this final part of the Daily Arsenal podcast. We are here now talking about our opponents for this evening in the final Champions League stage
phase.
game
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, you can't really call it the group stage anymore, can you? It's the Champions
No.
League stage, which doesn't flow as well as the Champions League group stage. Jamie, we're up against Girona FC. Now, Girona, they are part of the City Football Club, as it seems half the teams in the bloody world are at the moment. They finished third last season. They had a really, really good season last season. It's probably their best season in several years. Any idea on who their top goal scorer is currently in all competitions?
No, I couldn't think.
Ex-Spurs, Brian Gill.
Oh yeah, Brian
Brian
Gill.
wow.
Yeah.
Yes. However, I'm not that concerned because in 26 games, okay, he's their top goal scorer. He has scored 4.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
So they have not had a great season so far. They're sitting in 8th in La Liga. They're nowhere near where they were at last year. How are you feeling going into this one?
Yeah, feeling quite good to be honest. I think with Girona at the minute, I think the balance of obviously playing the Champions League and obviously trying to balance like the La Liga, I just don't think it's unfortunately worked out too well for them.
Mm.
But going into this game, since now we've pretty much secured qualification, I would try and think of resting players because we've got City over the weekend. So you know what? I mean, I'd put Neto. I'd give Neto a run out in goal. I mean, we've brought him on loan for a reason. JD's kind of giving me that look to say, like, hold on a minute, what are you on about? But I would, with this team, I mean, with Arsenal, I would maybe try and go for the same approach that we did in the last game, but I would try and be a bit more. I'd try and rest certain players for this game because with City coming up, especially at the Emirates, you would want players fit, ready, and raring to go.
That's it's an interesting point. Craig seems to be agreeing with you. I mean, we got 16 points so far from 7 games. We've drawn 1, lost 1, and won 5.
I'm pretty sure the highest we could finish is second, if I'm right.
We could finish second if Barcelona lose. If Barcelona lose and we win, we could finish second. There is a chance that we wouldn't make automatic qualification, but a team like, well, actually, so it's Brest, Lille, Feyenoord, Monaco, and Villa are the ones who could knock us off our perch. They've each got a goal difference of 5, 3, 2, 2, and 2, as is 12. So it'd have to be a bit of a disaster for us not to finish in the top 8.
Yeah.
Craig, who would you like to see rested? I mean, obviously, Jamie's suggesting David Raya, much to Josh's shock and horror. Who would you like to see rested, Craig, potentially in this game? Because it is a game where we've basically qualified in the best position possible.
I'd rest Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Needed for City.
Mm-hmm. And who would you play at left back?
Skelly, because he's not going. He's banned for the Premier League games, isn't it? So
yeah.
Do you know what? I'm surprised we haven't appealed it.
I think there's talk that there is potential for an appeal, but it's just not been forthcoming just as of yet, necessarily. Josh, we're third in the Champions League table. Like, at the start of the season, obviously, it's a new format. No one really knew how it was going to work or anything like that. Did you see us doing this well in the European tournament?
No, I don't think I'll be third. I've got to say, I think this whole concept of the league, man, I think it's bloody stupid if you ask me, you know. I mean... No, but, you know what I mean? Because it's like... Imagine, and I said this before as well, you could have teams on the same points, right? And just goal difference makes a difference. Like, and it's like, it will affect like 5 or 6 teams. If it's like 2 or 3 teams, fair enough, right? But 5 or 6 teams on goal difference on the league format to qualify from the knockout stages and to automatic qualification, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know about you guys. It doesn't make
But JD, do you not like the concept of like seeing a City who are battling that, who are going into like a final match day, and PSG that are going into a final match day knowing that they need to win? Like, do you not like the fact that maybe like a team like Brest, for example? I mean, whoever thought Brest would be in the position they're in? Do you know what I mean? Like, I do get where you're coming from with that, with the whole, you know, phase of, I get where you're coming from with like the goal difference, but would you not think that maybe, it kind of is a small positive for the likes of Brest and even a Villa? I mean, whoever thought Villa would be in the position they're in now?
I mean, I don't want to see Brest in the next stage. I don't know. I don't want to see them. I don't look at that team and think, Brest versus, I don't know, Villa. Oh, that's an entertaining. I'm gonna watch the game. I'm not watching that game. I understand what you're saying. It does give other teams a chance. Really, it really, truly, City just been really shocking. If they won their games when they've been winning positions, they wouldn't be in this place. I don't like it. I mean, I get it. There's more games and there's more exciting games. I get it from that concept, but I think having a league like this, it doesn't fit. Maybe they need to grow on it. I don't like it.
I do kind of get where you're coming from. I mean, if you're talking about the goal difference, there's 6 teams on 13 points, and there's 5 teams on 12 points. So
that's stupid.
There's a lot to play for. But at the moment, like these clubs have qualified. Monaco, Feyenoord, Lille, Brest, Celtic, all of those teams are going to be in a knockout stage of the Champions League, which for them is massive. And I've enjoyed the unpredictability of it. I've enjoyed kind of the chaos of it. And the fact that all of the final games are going to be played at the same time tonight.
Yeah.
It's kind of exciting, it's kind of cool. The final thing I want to say. Go on, Jamie. I
was going to say, will you guys say like have one game on the telly and just like one game on the laptop, since they're all being played simultaneously?
Probably not.
I might hijack my bar and put 3 different games on at the same time and see how many we can get on. Now, the last thing that I want to say, as Jamie alluded to, Manchester City are currently not in the knockout stage. They are just below on 8 points, and they are playing Club Bruges next up. Now, you'd imagine Club Bruges, a Belgian team, they're a good team, but they should be beating them. Club Bruges haven't lost in 15 games. They are unbeaten in 15.
Wow. But is that in the league? Is that in the league, though?
That is in all competitions. Their last defeat was against Milan in the Champions League, and that was the 22nd of October.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good stat, to be fair.
It's a really good stat. And so I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that City are going to beat them. And what an end of January treat that would be for us all.
Yeah.
Watching City get knocked out of the Champions League. And on that bombshell, we're going to end it for today. Thank you all so much for listening. I've been your host, Josh Vince. They were Jamie Patterson, Craig Matthews, and Joshua Duncan. Be sure to join us tomorrow. We'll be hoping to do a crossover with the Manchester City team themselves for the upcoming game on Saturday, it's a bit of a big one. Big teams play small teams all the time, so I'm sure we'll be fine against them. And until then, have a wonderful day. And from us here at the Daily Arsenal Podcast, goodbye.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.